What's up guys, my name is Ace, and I'm very excited to bring you guys the first episode of Gun Guides for Call of Duty Vanguard. This is the series where I dive deep into the stats of the weapons as well as their attachments to let you guys know exactly how the gun performs, and then toward the end of the video we put all of this knowledge together to create some excellent attachment combinations for you guys to use. Now just a heads up, since this is the first episode, of course weapons and attachments will be adjusted over time. I will do my absolute best throughout the year to leave a pinned comment with any changes that happen to the weapon as the year goes on. And on top of this, I'm currently working on a spreadsheet that I'm going to be making public, and I will be keeping those values updated throughout the year as well. But at the time of recording this video, that's not done yet. I will leave it in a pinned comment once I have it all ready to go. Now without further ado, let's dive in. And starting it off with damage, our base damage is 29-20, so 29 is the close range damage, 20 is the longer range damage, so it's going to be a 4 to 5 shot kill. However, we do get an upper torso damage multiplier, which takes that damage profile to 31-22. This still means it's going to be a 4 to 5 shot kill, so it doesn't really matter if you're shooting them in the upper torso for that. But then on top of this, our head and neck damage is 43 up close and 31 at a distance. And what this means is up close, if you mix one headshot in with upper torso shots, you can actually get a 3-shot kill instead of a 4-shot kill, whereas at longer ranges, you will need 2 headshots mixed in with body shots to reduce the number of shots to kill. As for our rate of fire, this is 600 rounds per minute, and what that means for our time to kill potential is up close, we'll be killing in 300 milliseconds with that 4-shot kill to the body, and then at a distance when it becomes a 5-shot kill, now our time to kill potential is 400 milliseconds. However, like I said, if we mix that one single headshot in with those upper torso shots up close, our headshot time to kill potential is 200 milliseconds, which is ridiculously fast. As for our bullet velocity, this is standard for assault rifles. They're all exactly the same right now at 885 meters per second. Then let's get into our ranges here, and as you can see here, we have a 50-meter 4-shot kill range, and in Vanguard, it's actually quite surprising, with the maps that we have right now in multiplayer, there aren't a ton of practical lines of sight that extend beyond 50 meters in this game. So most of the time with the STG, you're going to be well within the 4-shot kill range. But then I also wanted to take a look at hardcore game modes, which has a reduced health pool down to 30 currently, although I do suspect this may change in the future. But with this, I just wanted to point out we can get a 1-shot kill to the upper torso, neck, or head out to 50 meters with the STG. If you hit anywhere else in the body though, it's going to take you 2 shots to kill, and then beyond 50 meters, it has to be a head or neck shot if you want a 1-shot kill. Moving on to our Hipfire Spread, this is pretty good for an assault rifle. It's not quite as good as the Automaton or the Volk, but it's not bad by any means in this area. Then taking a look at our idle sway, or how much our sights will move while aiming down sights, there is very little movement as you can see here, so it's great in that department as well. And now let's have a look at our recoil, which as you can see here, I'm sure this is no surprise to you guys, the STG44 is quite an accurate and controllable assault rifle. It kicks pretty much straight upwards with a slight lean to the right. And overall, this shouldn't be an issue for you to control. Now, on that same topic of accuracy, this is our aim down sight spread with the STG compared to the other assault rifles. So when you pull the trigger, the bullet won't necessarily go exactly where you're aiming. There is a small amount of randomness to it, but the STG44 isn't that bad when compared to a lot of the other assault rifles. As for our aim down sight time, this is 230 milliseconds, which is a little bit better than average for assault rifles. Then when it comes to our sprint to fire time, it's 217 milliseconds for a standard sprint and 334 milliseconds for a tactical sprint, which is again noticeably better than average for assault rifles. Finally, for our handling stats, our reload add time, this is the amount of time it takes to reload without any unnecessary animations afterwards. This is 1.65 seconds, which is basically right on average for assault rifles. And finally, for base stats without attachments, let's have a look at our movement speeds, which are all pretty much standard for assault rifles. They're right around the average, and it just doesn't stand out in any way, good or bad here. So those are the most important base stats for this gun, but the fun is just getting started because we have a bunch of crazy attachments in this game. Let's start it off with the barrel attachments. And the first thing I want to look at when it comes to barrels is how much do they impact our ranges. So you can see here with the first barrel, it slightly decreases our range, whereas the second barrel will slightly increase our range, but it's still going to take the same number of shots to kill, and our time to kill potential isn't changed at all. However, with the third barrel, the 620mm barrel, this one is going to take you 1 extra shot to kill at both ranges, and therefore our time to kill potential is also going to be slowed down pretty noticeably here. And then the fourth and final barrel, the 220mm barrel, this one doesn't impact our range, but you can see it has a better time to kill potential, and this is due to its higher fire rate. Now, range is just one very small part of the picture. Next up, let's have a look at our recoil comparison here with these various barrels, because they will impact our recoil. And you can see with the first barrel, we do have a lot more initial recoil. It might not look like much because the recoil pattern doesn't extend up much compared to the base recoil, but that initial recoil with those first 5 or so shots is very noticeable and it can absolutely throw you off target. So that is something to be aware of with the first barrel. The second one is insanely accurate. I highly recommend using that for accuracy. Then with the fourth one, the 620mm barrel, again, this one is also super accurate. Even though it kicks upward more than our base recoil, you'll notice there's very little side-to-side bounce, and that's the type of recoil that's hard to control. So therefore, I do consider this to be a very accurate barrel. And then finally, for our fourth barrel, this one harms our recoil quite a bit. So that's something you have to be very aware of if you decide to use this barrel. Now, when it comes to the other stat impacts of these barrels, because they do impact quite a few different stats, most of them I'm not actually going to cover in this series because you can straight up just see it for yourself in the in-game menus. So any sort of movement speed, aim down sight speed, or like hip fire adjustment, I'm not going to be talking about in this series because you guys can see it for yourself, and I have to keep this series at least somewhat manageable. However, I will always cover any sort of time to kill changes, and this is why I want to take a deep look at the third barrel attachment because this one is the only one that directly impacts your damage values. And with this one, our base damage to the body is reduced by a noticeable margin to the point where it's now going to be a 5 to 6 shot kill to the body depending on the range, even if you're hitting upper torso shots. Now the trade-off for this is the fact that our head and neck damage is increased massively with this, and we actually deal 79 damage to the head or neck in the maximum damage range of this gun, which is a huge amount of damage for one shot from a full auto assault rifle. And this means one single headshot mixed in with body shots will always be helping with this, and you actually have the potential to get a 2-shot kill with this gun if both of those shots hit the head. So with this barrel, you're trading consistency for potential. If you're actively going for headshots and you're really confident at hitting headshots, this might be a great choice for you, but just know if you don't hit your headshot, you're making this gun quite a bit worse. To top this off, I did want to point out that the vital proficiency, which normally takes your head and neck damage and it will extend it to your upper torso, it will not stack with this barrel and you'll still only be dealing 24 damage to the upper torso, which is a good thing, by the way. That would completely destroy weapon balance if that were the case. But yeah, just keep that in mind. If you are creating a class setup with this particular barrel, don't use the vital proficiency. You're actually completely wasting it. So those are the most important things I wanted to talk about when it comes to the barrel attachments on the STG. Now let's get into the magazine attachments because these also pretty massively impact the performance of the gun. And we'll just start this one off with recoil. As you can see with the 7.62 Gorenko, it does make the gun noticeably more accurate. Then with either of the 30 Russian short magazines, we have a 20 round and a 30 round magazine. With these, it doesn't really increase the magnitude of your recoil at all, but what it does do is it decreases that accuracy stat, which increases the amount of spread you get when aiming down sight. Now, this is something you can easily compensate for by putting on several attachments that improve the accuracy stat in the menus, but it is something you definitely want to be aware of if you're using 30 Russian short. Now, you might notice there is a missing magazine in this, and that is the 45 round drum magazine, and the reason I didn't include it here is it has no impact on your accuracy. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into these individual ammo types. For the first one, the 7.62 Gorenko ammo, this one really harms your damage stats. With this, it's now going to take you 5 to 6 shots to kill to the body, depending on where in the body you're shooting them, and also you deal very little damage to the limbs now, so it can take you up to 7 shots to kill with this ammo type, whereas if you were just using the base STG, it will never take you more than 5 shots to kill, even at long range to the toe. Now, the upside to this is we do get a bit of an improvement to our rate of fire, and like you saw earlier, it also improves our accuracy. But when you look at the downside and what this does to our time to kill potential with body shots, with it being very noticeably slower, I can't really think of any solid justification for ever using this particular magazine. In my opinion, at least, you should stay far away from this. As for the 30 Russian short caliber, this applies to both of the magazine types. They have the same impacts to our damage and our rate of fire. With this, we get boosted damage everywhere but the head and neck. And this means in the maximum damage range, it'll be a 3-shot kill anywhere in the body. And when you get to longer ranges, it's going to be a 4-shot kill anywhere in the body. So it's going to be killing in 1 fewer bullet at all ranges. And even though this comes with a rate of fire reduction, this still means we're getting a much better time to kill potential at 220 milliseconds in the 3-shot kill range and 330 milliseconds in the 4-shot kill range. It's also worth noting with this that headshots are no longer really relevant because you're dealing basically the same amount of damage to the body as you are to the head. Like, it's only 1 or 2 damage points off, and that's totally fine. What this means is this gun's just going to be extremely consistent with this ammunition. Now, really the only downside you have to be very aware of when using 30 Russian short on the STG is the fact that you are going to get increased aim down sight spread, so focus on combining it with attachments that help with your accuracy stat. Now, before we move on to some great attachment combinations that use everything I've learned from my many hours of testing, there is one bug that I wanted to point out right now that is extremely important to point out. I suspect this will be fixed in the near future, but if you're using 30 Russian short combined with the vital proficiency, you would think that would do nothing really to help you because you're dealing roughly the same amount of damage to the body as you are to the head. But for whatever reason, with that combination, with Vital combined with the 30 Russian short ammo type, this will allow you to deal 79 damage to the upper torso, meaning with one shot to the upper torso and one shot literally anywhere else in the body, you'll have a 2-shot kill, which is completely broken. It doesn't make any sense in its current state. You actually deal way less damage to the head when you're using this combination. You're still dealing 43 damage to the head, but for some reason you deal 79 damage to the upper torsos. So yeah, this is completely broken right now, but I'm sure they'll patch it in the near future. I will leave it in a pinned comment down below once they end up getting on top of this. And now we can finally move into a couple great attachment combinations that I wanted to share with you guys. Keep in mind, of course, there are so many potential combinations out there. I'm not saying these are absolutely the best for all scenarios and all playstyles. These are just some excellent combinations that I found work exceptionally well. And the first one is my long-range STG build. Now with this, I'm not going to talk about every single attachment that's on here, but a big thing that I focus on here is I'm using the VDD 760mm barrel, combined with the 30 Russian short 30-round magazine on this. And with many of my attachments, I did focus on the accuracy stat, so I don't have as much of that aim down sight spread, so it's very accurate and precise, and there's very little recoil with this as well, as you can see here. So this is a ridiculously accurate gun. It's also got a consistent 3-shot kill out to 68 meters, which is going to cover the vast majority of gunfights you'll ever find in this game. And with that, that means you have a 220 millisecond time to kill in almost every situation you find yourself in, no matter where you're shooting them in the body, which is incredible. Now, one thing I did want to point out here is the proficiency I have on this class setup is sleight of hand. This is in anticipation of them fixing that issue with the combination of 30 Russian short and Vital. I mean, if you really want to abuse it right now, I would be using Vital for now, but once they patch it, you'll want to swap over to sleight of hand because Vital is going to end up being useless combined with 30 Russian short. So yeah, this gun absolutely decimates pretty much everything at long range. It is so easy to use and so consistent as well, and that's why I really like it. As for the second setup I've got for you guys, this one's designed a bit more for close to mid-range. I mean, you could still stretch your range out with it pretty well, but this isn't the type of gun I'm going to be typically fighting people across the map with. And with this one, you'll notice I'm not using a magazine attachment at all. Sometimes it's in your best interest to not use an attachment. Although if you wanted to, you could put the 45 round drum mag on this. Just know that that will be slowing down your movement speed. One of the big things with this setup is our strafe speed is just about as fast as our normal movement speed. It is insanely fast. So you can be strafing in gunfights really quickly. You can strafe around corners with this really effectively and very quickly. It's going to be hard to track you while strafing back and forth. It's also going to be quite a consistent 3-shot kill as long as one of those shots hits the chest, which is going to be very consistent. And this means we also get a ridiculous time to kill potential with that one chest shot mixed in at 200 milliseconds up close. This is going to be beating most of the guns in the game. And when it comes to our recoil, you can see there's definitely some recoil to this. And this is why I call it a close to mid-range gun. You could stretch it out, but it's more so designed for close to mid-range. And I'd recommend playing with that in mind. Try to keep yourself more in the mid-range situations rather than challenging people across the map. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's very first episode of Gun Guides for Call of Duty Vanguard. As for my thoughts on the STG44, I don't think it's any surprise. This is one of the best guns in the game right now. It is just so easy to use, so versatile, and on top of that, with the right attachment combination, you can have an insane time to kill potential on top of its super easy handling and really low recoil. But of course, that is just my opinion, even though it's clearly not a very unpopular one right now. I'd like to know in the comment section below, though, what do you guys think about the STG? Do you guys think it's completely overpowered in its current state and needs to be nerfed pretty heavily? Or do you think it's just fine as it is? Or are you one of those weirdos that thinks it needs a buff? Just let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like it and maybe even share it around the internet a little bit. I put so much time and effort into this one, especially with all the crazy attachments in this game. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly encourage you to do that because I'm going to be covering every single one of the games in this same sort of format. I hope you guys enjoyed this gun guide, and I'll talk to you guys next time.